And we are live. Hello and welcome to Developer Insights. I'm David.
And I'm Justin.
Together we are the leads on game development and design here at Codename.
We also founded Codename too.
Codename 2? Like a second one?
Yes, the sequel.
All right. Well, anyway, we're going to be your hosts for this episode and for every episode.
Because when we're not here, the show doesn't happen.
That still appears to be true.
Today is our 67th episode.
Hey, it's another Prime episode.
Okay, well, don't look at me. My track record with Primes is a little rocky. Hey, are you looking? You're looking at me, aren't you?
You bet.
Stop that. It's creepy.
Fine. I was getting bored of it anyway.
As always, we are here to answer development and design questions about idle champions.
But if you don't ask any questions, you may have to suffer through Justin's one-man reenactment of, what is it this week? Storming the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. Wow, we're really...
Yeah. No, yeah, we've gone all out this week. We've got detailed sets, we've got special effects, cinematographers, and... Oh, no. We've already gotten some questions. Darn.
I'm starting to think we're never going to get to see one of these one-man reenactments.
Oh, really? What gave you that idea?
As always, we have pulled some questions forward from the previous show that we did not get to, so we will answer some of those while we are waiting for new questions to come in. But before we get to those, we do have some updates from items flagged to get looked at by the dev team. I'm saying that hesitationally because I know I don't have actually my typical list of items that got completed. I only have the in-progress list, which I will go over before Justin has an announcement.
An update.
An update, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so the still in progress items we're looking to add an item to portraits of champions that are blocked due to variant rules that have feats available that could make them unblocked. We're going to add a skip animation for the moving of the code chest before you're able to put in a code, because I know that slows down that whole process. Adding a tooltip to gear with max level to indicate the progress towards max level. Adding an option to mobile for a quick return to Area 1. Current platforms have that, but mobile doesn't. Probably a click and hold is what we'll do for that. Additional icons on the quest tracker for different types of season quest. Obviously, with the new season running, that is once again a relevant request. We need to get that in there soon. Recall for familiar. Indication of number of unread changelogs, and saving feats with formations. That is our current in-progress list. Justin, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, so I see a couple of people already asking about this, but a couple of weeks ago we teased that we would have some legendary crafting updates for you this week, and we do, so I will get right to those. I'll start out by saying these are planned to go out next week. But asterisks, things can change. They could potentially get pushed for one reason or another if we find a serious bug between now and then, or if something else comes up. So big asterisks. The plan is to have these come out next week, but if they don't, please don't come to next week's show and yell at me for them not coming out. So. The big plan with these legendary updates is to fix the issue, the biggest issue really with the legendary crafting system, which is we're all very slowly falling behind on our legendaries, and it is literally impossible for us to craft as many legendaries and level them up as much as we need to keep all of our champions equipped with high-level legendary items. So we're looking at basically changing a bunch of the costs required to craft legendary items. The base cost to craft a legendary item is no longer going to double with each craft, and is no longer going to degrade over time. Instead, it will be based on the number of legendaries you already have on a champion. So there will essentially be a fixed cost to craft all 6 legendaries for a champion, rather than a cost that kind of fluctuates based on how often you craft and when you craft and that sort of stuff. Because that just it didn't feel good for trying to catch up on legendaries or spend a whole bunch of currency at once or stuff like that. We are also changing the cost to upgrade legendary items so that it's a bit cheaper. I don't have the specifics here, but currently it costs about 55,000 trials currency, scales of Tiamat, to get a level 10 legendary, and we're looking to pull that down significantly so that it is easier to have those legendaries be effective on your adventures. We will not be changing the cost to reforge. So reforging will still use the old doubling and reducing thing. We do want to make reforging to get the perfect set of legendaries something that is more of an end game goal than something you can just easily kind of get right out of the gate. And the last point is that because these are pretty big changes and the costs are going to be changing quite a bit, we will be refunding players scales of Tiamat. And the way we're going to be doing that is basically when the system rolls out, we'll be calculating the total number of scales that you've earned since trials rolled out. And we will be subtracting the cost to craft all of your existing legendaries in the new system and giving you the difference. So if you've earned over the course of trials being out, if you've earned, say, 100,000 scales and you've spent 100,000 scales to craft your legendaries, but under the new system, it would only cost, say, 30,000, then you'll get 70,000 scales as soon as this rolls out, and you'll be able to go get yourself some more legendaries. The one caveat to that is I do suggest that if you have any legendary potions on hand, that you use them now so that you can get some additional scales for them, because they won't be quite as cost saving under the new system. And that is those are my updates. So I see here that there are already 30-something questions. So I will expect question 31 and forward to have some questions about what I've just said.
All right. Yeah, reading through those there, I know I was highlighting a number of them. I don't see anything yet, but
yeah.
Okay.
Let's move on to some questions that are left over from last week's show. So it looks like, Dave, you've pulled a bunch forward here for yourself. So
sure did.
So I will ask you some of these. So these are some questions that were left over from last week's show. As always, if we don't get to your question this week, we might pull it forward to next week's show. So don't get discouraged if we don't get to your question this week. It's very, very rare. In fact, I don't think we've ever gotten anywhere close to actually answering.
I think we've
all
gotten
the questions that
close,
have come in.
But we've never done
one
it.
time on US when we had the show on US Thanksgiving, and there were like 5 people in chat. That was the one time I think we did it. Anyway, okay. So the first leftover question here is from Cassius335, who asks, any chance of subfolders for the inventory?
Yeah, there's a very high chance we're going to get that in the near future. That's certainly something that we've been looking at doing. I think it makes a lot of sense. And so yeah, it's something that's on the list to get done.
Great.
Okay, next question here, which I thought was kind of a curious question because I wasn't 100% sure what the sort of the use case of it would be, but I thought you might have some ideas on this, Justin. And this question is from Old Bald Mean D&D. Okay, we'll go with that. The question is, could we have a way to drop a potion on a champion that only affects them?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm also trying to figure out what the use case could be. Certainly like a DPS potion. I mean, I guess maybe there's like some edge cases for like setting up the perfect farm or something where you want just a particular champion to do more damage and not some others. Speed
I'm not
potion
sure.
would be funny if you only drop that on one champion. It's like they're just going crazy and all the other champions are like, ugh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I would. That's something that I would want to spend a lot of tech time on. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of idea, an interesting exploration.
Okay.
Next question here from last week's episode is from Randram, who says, I'll forward a gripe that Mars had on stream earlier that I also agree with and thus is appropriate. The new Veronica skin from yesterday is S tier, amazing, and God mode.
Will appropriate.
Thus will appropriate. Oh, yes. I can read. It's fine. I think the most important thing here is that the new Veronica?
Veronica?
He's not watching, right? Is S tier, amazing, and godlike. God mode, but the previews should probably include the fact that she has 3 new visual forms: normal, Dark Lord, and alt, all changed in the skin, and all more amazing than anything before, ever, anywhere. Wow. High bar.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
not.
basically, I think what they're asking for is, can the store or the shop or wherever this gets previewed uh, show additional visual forms? I think there's a lot of champions that have that, right? That would have additional forms in their skins. Like even Tyrell would have his bear form in a skin. So,
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
yes or no?
I think the answer
it's a simple
is
question, Dave.
the answer is yes. That's true. It's sort of a new change, and I think it would be great to have those highlighted wherever we preview them. So I'm going to highlight that and put it onto the list. Okay.
Next question here is also from Randram, who asks, related to the
Pooh Storm
of imposing a E308 favor cap this week, which had to go again. Will we be getting a second attempt at that in the future to stop zeroing out?
Right. So the context
last week,
yeah, the context on this is there's some concern that if you hit the E308 favor cap and went over it, that it would then reset and you'd start again at 0. Peter was looking into that last week, and he did put some code in to account for that, but there was an error in that code, and that resulted in a chunk of players who were resetting at that time ending up actually all being set to E308, which he then spent quite a few hours correcting, unfortunately. The answer is yeah, he definitely was going to take another attempt at that to make sure that that doesn't zero you out if you hit that cap. So that's definitely happening. All right. And the last question we have left over from last week is from Colin Rowlands. Not sure if this was asked before I joined the stream, but the current Nair's weekly season quest for real? It seems to be ludicrously overtuned.
Yeah, so this is referring to the, I believe, week 4 seasonal quest where you have to kill 75,000, a mere 75,000 enemies with Neris's spiritual weapon. And yes, so I believe it is definitely a little bit overtuned.
Ludicrously, Justin.
It's a little bit overtuned. I think the bigger issue is that it has exposed some issues with companion attacks. And that is something that we've actually already taken a little bit of action on. The latest build that is out on a bunch of platforms: Steam, Epic, Xbox, Android, possibly iOS soon, possibly PlayStation soon. That has some changes to how companion weapons will attack. So that would be the spiritual weapon, as well as I think Havilar's imps, though I'm not sure if they've actually changed due to it. But we've changed some stuff there so that it should attack more reliably. It was previously, I think, if there were no enemies on the screen when its kind of attack timer came up, it would just skip that attack. Now it's going to act a little bit more like a champion, whereas it will just queue itself up in the list so that it will get an attack off. And we've also, I think, in the next build, we'll get something in there so that if whoever it's on is attacking faster than it attacks, it will still try to get as many attacks in as its target. Because I think we saw a couple of cases where some clever players had sort of put it on somebody and then reduced their attack time down to like a second or less. And then the spiritual weapon was actually just not attacking as often as it should have. So we've made a couple of changes there that we hope will make the spiritual weapon attack more quickly and more reliably, and that should help with that. But it is still, it's still a very challenging weekly quest or seasonal quest. But luckily we've got still 5 or 6 weeks left to do it. So hopefully folks will be able to find a good zone to do that in, and can take a stab at that.
Okay. On to questions from today's episode, starting with one here from Engel Tiger. Question: do you need to unlock 3 feat slots before you see the 4th?
Yes, I believe the feat slots only unlock in order. So if you the first time you load the game, if you're a brand new player and you just see feats for the first time, you'll just see the first slot with a level that you have to get to unlock it. You unlock that, you'll see the second one, you unlock that, you'll see the third, you unlock that to see the 4th. So all the champions have 4 feat slots, but they do unlock in order, and you have to unlock the previous one before you can see the level requirement for the next one.
Okay.
In general, though, it looks like that feat stuff has been pretty well well received. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I think everyone is happy to have some more feat slots. The one thing I will say that I know someone's going to ask about, I haven't actually scrolled down.
No, it's down here. It's highlighted. I got a few.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll just knock it off before we even get there. Is that there's been a lot of requests to be able to unequip certain feats, like the stat boosting feats. So we are working on the ability to, I think, just unequip all feats. Is that what we're going with as kind of a straightforward
I'm
thing?
not 100% sure where we landed on that. I thought we were at the click to unequip kind of thing, but
an individual one.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes,
Yeah.
we are working on a feature to make it so you can unequip feats. So that should make it out hopefully in the next week or two.
Someone in the chat says the only issue with more feats is the smell. Oh dear. Okay, next question. Although I asked, do you know what this one is about? That's what a weird.
I do not know what that one is about. No,
it's an odd question there. Context
don't
I don't know, so we're gonna not look at that. But the next question here is from Old Man Master. I know in the past people have asked for a 9 jump feat for Briv. I just want to bring it up again, but ask if we can just cap it at 9 jump instead of a feat. Less design involved, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what direction we want to go with this one here. I mean, obviously we did the 4 jump feat. I feel like if we capped at 9 jumps, there'd be people who have 19 jump Briv or something like that who would potentially complain. I'm sure we'd be messing up somebody's gem farm. I'm not sure on this one. I would have to go look at some of the numbers and see where people were at.
Okay.
Let's see. Next question here is from Anonymous 698008. See what you did there. Any ideas on how to lower CPU and memory usage? Lower quality, 500 by 500 resolution? Well, I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah, that wouldn't look great. So sort of 2 questions there, and this is at least the memory one is a fairly common request or note that there is occasionally issues where we do end up developing memory leaks, and then that can cause the game to close at higher memory usages. But from the first one, which is the CPU one, unfortunately, I don't think there's much we can do about that. And it's largely because the way the champion effects system works is that it ends up being pretty CPU intensive to sort of calculate all those effects, particularly after sort of often they update after an action is done by a champion. And then it's compounded by anything that's speed related. So at the point at which you're asking the game to go sort of 10 times normal speed and sort of effects are being updated multiple times per frame, it turns into a really CPU intensive task. So there's not much that can be done about that beyond sort of, I think you can get some benefit there by lowering the frame rate, or when the game is minimized, often that happens as well, but the frame rate gets reduced as well. But that can result in there being slightly lower progress. I think some things, there are a few elements that happen that end up being, what's the word I'm looking for? They're limited. They can only happen once per frame, and so the frame becomes the minimum amount of time that action can happen in. It's not a lot of actions, but it is some, and that means that a lower frame rate can result in a slightly slower progress. So not a lot you can do there. As far as the memory usage goes, lowering the game resolution isn't going to make a big difference there. A lot of the issue that often isn't sort of obvious on its face is that a lot of high resolution 2D assets that aren't compressed, because that's what you're looking at, do end up taking a lot of memory fairly quickly. It's not quite the same as like the textures you'd have in a 3D game, because those are compressed, and because of the nature of it, you don't see it as much. But from just when you have high resolution, detailed and pixel perfect positioned accurate 2D graphics, you end up not being able to compress them when you're using them live, and so that does use up a lot of memory. We have on some of the mobile devices had a mode when they're like a super low resolution mode where we scaled the graphics down, and that doesn't make things look pretty awful. But I think the best bet there is just to have a little bit extra memory. But one note on that is that if you are seeing the memory grow, like, up past 2.5, 3 gigs, that sort of thing, there's the potential there that you're seeing a leak, and you can you can open a ticket with the account that's having that happen. And we take a snapshot of what your formation was going on there when you open a ticket, and that can be passed on to me, and I can run it in our debugger and see if there is something happening there. Cool. All right. On to the next question. This one is from Garwar. And Garwar asks, since the majority of people are opening 50 chests at a time, don't care about reviewing all of the loot, can we get a way to skip the card reveal and put the items below the open 50 more button so we can just click through quickly? Maybe even a setting that hides the images for those that truly don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably some optimizations that we can do to this. It's definitely a couple more clicks than it probably necessarily needs to be. And I totally agree that if you're just opening like silver chests or something like that, like you're literally not going to get any items that you particularly care about in there. So yeah, I think that's something that we can look at doing at some point down the road, just optimizing that so you can do it a little bit faster. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some options for this. I don't think there's any reason why we should, I think we can, there are a lot of players who do have quite a few chests, and it probably at this point does make sense to make this an easier thing to do, or maybe open for more at once, just in general. Maybe even seeing if we could make that call slightly more efficient so that it works better, from a server side standpoint. I see there's a couple of other questions here that do follow up on that. I know Garwar's got a second one, that's one question down, asking about kind of like the mega and ultra options, kind of like what was done in Crusaders. That's where you could combine the chest into a bigger version of that chest. And I think someone actually followed up further down with that as well. Another question about that.
Yes, there's one from Super Fluffy Kitty down here as well.
So it seems like it's becoming more of a common request. So
almost like when it was first asked a few weeks ago or a few months ago, I was like, if you keep asking, maybe you'll wear us down. I see what you guys are doing here.
No, it certainly shows it's still a priority. Yeah, I think we could put a little more thought into that and see if there's a way to make it easier to open up, especially ones that have been piling up. If it's been a real, do you want to make it? We really don't. It doesn't need to be a chore, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question here is from Question Colon. What can we do with Scrolls of Assault when we regularly run trials with a maxed jar axle?
Yeah, so the question here is because there's a maximum amount that you can get your assault damage buff up to. If Jarlaxle eats up that entire percentage, then Scrolls of Assault don't actually do anything. So yeah, this is a little bit of a challenge. I'm not sure if maybe what we want to do is have like a max percent that you can get from champions, and then a max percent you can get from scrolls. So to give them some use, or if we want to do something similar to what we're looking at doing for potions, which could potentially be trading potions between types, or upgrading potions or to a higher type or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I see that there's a demand here, so it's definitely something that we can put a little bit of thought towards the next time we look at the trials design stuff.
Okay, and then this was the question about the mega chests. I think we'll probably move on from that unless you had more to say about it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions here about the mega chests, and that's something that we will consider as part of trying to make chests a little bit easier to open.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Super Fluffy Kitty, asking, can assault damage be uncapped? The previous 200% damage cap was for a different version of Trials, the initial version. Assault damage could stand to be reworked and allowed to be uncapped. Also, more champions could stand to be added to the assault champion pool.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting. It's related to the previous question with the Scrolls of Assault, and I do wonder if this could help with issues where players are maybe getting stuck in trials with people who aren't contributing. You could potentially just toss a whole bunch of assault scrolls at it, or multiple champions with assault damage bonuses. and try and get through a harder difficulty with just 3 or 4 contributors. It doesn't feel like the right answer to that kind of stuff, but it's something to think about. Yeah, I'm not sure. Don't want to go too ham with that because we don't want to necessarily allow one person to kind of be able to solo everything with a super high level Jarlaxle and a boatload of scrolls. But yeah, something to think about. Next question here, also from Garwar. Certainly, we're going to run out of Garwar questions eventually, right? Garwar is saying, now that there are 4 feat slots, can we finally get them to save in our save formation so we don't have to manually change them every time?
Yeah, I think that's worth prioritizing. It is one that's been in the list that I've been repeating at the beginning of every episode, which I'm certainly also getting tired of repeating. So I'm going to highlight that, or well, Justin's going to highlight that. Go ahead.
I'll highlight it.
And we'll try and prioritize that one, especially now that there are more feat slots.
Next question here is from Lightning Hawk, who asks, can we please have the potion manager square permanently in place, even when a potion is not being used? It would make managing and using potions so much easier and convenient.
Yeah, that one again, also absolutely, let's get that one in there. That's I think that was an oversight in the initial design, and we definitely want to get that up there because that's it's an easy way to access them. It's kind of silly right now that you have to open up your inventory, find a potion, activate that, and then only then can you get to the potion manager. So yeah, let's pin that up there. Makes sense to me. Yeah,
that was the first thing I thought when I came back in the new year and was looking at the potion manager for the first time.
I 100% agree with that. Okay, next question. This one is also from, holy smokes, there's a lot of Garwar questions today. This one is also from Garwar. Are we going to get a 2022 recap blog with a look forward at 2023?
Yeah. Forgive me for not having this done. This is something that we do every year, or we've been trying to do every year. It's been getting later and later into the new year each time. This year I have a good excuse. I wasn't here for the last few weeks of December because I was at home doing stuff with my new kid. And by doing stuff, I mean, trying to get sleep. Yeah, I think this is something that I still do want to do, and I just need to remember that it's something I need to prioritize. Let's see. It looks like it's nearly 2:30 Pacific
already
time. Yeah, right. So that means that we've got our giveaway starting soon. And for those who are here for the very first time, welcome to our stream. Thank you for joining us. And every stream we do a giveaway of 42 chests of your choice. And the way that you win that giveaway is by entering the giveaway. And the way that you enter the giveaway is by waiting for the giveaway to start.
Okay.
And then you type in the keyword into chat. There it goes. The keyword this week is Stinky Feats with the S and the F capitalized. I didn't pick that keyword, but
and the feats
yes,
spelled
please,
as feats, not as feats.
Yes, FEATS. Just copy and paste it from what someone else is saying. Anyway, if by just saying that in chat, you'll be entered into the giveaway. If you win the giveaway, you will get to pick the chest of your choice. It can be any chest in the game, except for Glory of Bahamut chests. For some reason, I would pick Modron component chests because I like to play the pipe game. What's your favorite chest, Dave?
Oh, the clairvoyant admin chest. It's where you think about what you want, and then you open it, and you get that thing.
Yeah, and just to be clear, it has to be a type of chest that's in game. So you can try to pick that type of chest, but you might not. Yeah, silver rosy chests are good. It looks like Obo Lauren would pick Orkira chests. I don't know why she would do that. So yeah, just... Oh yeah, so if we put mega chests in the game, you won't be able to pick mega chests either.
So many caveats.
Yeah. So yeah. Good luck. Have fun. Let us move on to the next question. The next question here is from Garwar. course. Their question, I think this is the second to last one that we have here from them, right? I'm not highlighting any more Garwar questions after this. So their question is, can the noon reset not pull us out of working on our Modron cores since it doesn't autosave when you close the core dialog?
Sorry, I was reading the other question list. Can the noon reset not pull us out of working cores since it doesn't autosave when you close the core dialog?
So the noon reset, like, I guess I'm not quite sure. Is this like when we have a server hiccup at noon and it like, or I guess, does it automatically do like reloading challenges or something at noon that then causes a pop-up and closes? Oh, I see. Oh, Garwar is referring to when there are server issues on Mondays and Wednesdays. So it pops up a like cannot reach server, and that for some reason closes the Modron core dialog. Why does it do that? I don't know. Yep. I don't know why it does that, and that is something that we can highlight and look into, because that seems like a silly thing to do.
Okay. Next question. This one is from Randram. Can we have a separate time slot, or maybe on the now empty Mondays, for Justin's one-day reenactments as a separate show?
Wait a sec. One-day reenactments?
Wait, one day?
That seems like a little much. I think a 24-hour reenactment might put a little bit of strain on my abilities.
No one's actually ever seen one of your one-man reenactments. Maybe they're not very good. I mean,
I can guarantee they're not very good.
They don't know what they're asking for.
You don't want to see my one-man reenactments. They're quite bad. I can barely make it through a two-man show here. So, yeah. I don't think we're going to have a 24-hour stream of Justin reenactments every week. Sorry.
Okay.
Next question here is from He Who Shall Not Be Named, and they ask, can we get a functional campaign list in the Modron automation set formation tab? Currently, it's utterly random, the order it's put in, which makes it useless. The naming conventions are also somewhat problematic. Alphabetical is a must, and the event listings should be champion-event to be understandable. Currently, it lists event-year, which doesn't even tell people whose formation that is.
I'm not going to argue with that. I'm just going to highlight it.
That seems like one of those things.
And I think the ironic part about that is that the current version is an improved version from what it was originally.
There's a couple of places that we need to make some improvements on that. Like I was testing through the legendary stuff, the legendary crafting changes, and I don't think, unless it didn't make it into the build I was testing, but I don't think we've actually updated the absolutely atrocious way in which you pick the champion that you want to build a legendary for. So I think there's a bunch of issues there that we need to
revisit.
Play around with.
Okay, moving on. Next question. This one is from Canelian. New variants have been releasing with higher and higher zone requirements, which means more and more patron currency as rewards. Will we see the ability to purchase more than one patron chest at a time soon?
I think that's not a bad idea. I think that's probably something we should put in. Even if you just stack up a bunch of weeks of challenges, it'd be nice to be able to just kind of toss that all at patron chests all in one go, if that's your fancy. So, yeah.
I think the answer in the chat there for that question, what about second giveaway? We've never heard of second giveaway. We also don't know about second breakfast. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Next question. This one is from Xavier Kaith. I think so. That's what I'm going with. Can we get a few days long queue for dailies, similar to how weeklies stack, so that we don't have the frequent issue of forgetting to complete a variant you started for a daily because you meant to come back in an hour and forgot until the next day?
Yeah, so this is something that we actually, when we were designing seasons, we kind of went back and forth on whether to have basically some daily slots that would, you'd get 3 dailies a day and you could store up to 9 or something like that. And I think we ended up back on individual dailies without being able to stack them up, just because we really want dailies to be a check back mechanic that is very daily and rewards you for playing every day. as opposed to being something where you can play, twice a week and be able to keep up with people who are playing every day that week. So we really wanted it to be rewarding people who are playing all the time. With that said, it is a metric that we could play with and something we could play with in a future season if we see a big demand for it. And so yeah, I won't say that it's something we'll never do, but it's not something we currently have plans to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sort of it is definitely a balance between, having a little bit of flexibility, but also in rewarding players who do play every day, so that coming back every day does give you an advantage. And so if we made them stack up, then it would take that advantage away. And well, I think based on the design, we wanted to have players who played every day to have a little bit of an edge. So.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. We're getting through the questions faster than we're able to highlight them here.
I know.
You can ask me this next one here. I certainly have an answer for it, and then I can try and comment some more as we go.
Okay. This question is from Wandering Bereft, and they ask, with Season 2 now the new hotness, can we review Season 1? Now that there's no incentive to use Heroes of Erois, how do you feel their changes left them placed? Are they seeing an uplift in usage?
Yes, this is a cool question, and I'm happy to share a little bit of information from our analytics. But yeah, we are seeing the Heroes of Erois have a definite, or definitely some of the champions rather, have a definite uplift post-season. I think specifically Nova and Sentry are seeing more usage post-season than they were before. We definitely saw them shoot up during the season, and after the season, they've kind of started to trickle down. I don't think any of them are all the way back down to where they were pre-season, so that's a good thing for us. We're definitely seeing that the reworks we did left them in a better place post-season than before season. But it's nice to see that some of them are competing even after the season, and even after there's not really a huge incentive to continue to use them every day like there was during the season. So I mean, it's something that we're definitely watching. We're watching it for Season 2 as well. We saw them all kind of pop up right when Season 2 started, or I guess a week before Season 2 started, when we did the sort of preview week, and I'm sure we'll see them sort of persist through the season and then start to fall off after the season ends. But our hope is that the seasons will introduce people to new formation, new possibilities, and that you've got 4 parties, so maybe one of them will be your Erois party after the season, because you found that there was a fun way to use those champions in a formation. So we're pretty happy about how the Heroes of Erois have survived the end of Season 1. Let's see. Next question here is from Loopy79, who asks, any progress on the annoying bug that results in a message saying one or more background parties have paused progress when they actually are working just fine? Yes, I've seen Reddit threads about this.
Sorry, I had my mic muted there because I was forwarding a question to Peter, and I have a clicky keyboard here. Yeah, I wasn't aware to the degree that was happening, but I'm going to forward that on to Mark and see if he has any insight on that, because obviously that shouldn't be happening, especially if they're working just fine. So I'm tagging it. I'll ask Mark if he knows anything about that, and report back next week. There was another one here, and as I say, I forwarded this to Peter. I just want to point out there's a question here from Kenk Olano asking about a particular status around a bug on the bug tracker, saying that silver chests won't open/give items. I don't have any detail on that, but I forwarded it to Peter to see if he had any knowledge on that, because he does keep track of what's going on the bug pages there. So maybe before the show's over, I'll get an answer from him, but no guarantees.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question, which it looks like you highlighted, Justin. This is from Undying03. Any plans on making speed champs work in the background farm? Not necessarily offline. Farm, okay. Speed champs lose so much value when not active or playing in the foreground. Thank you.
Oh, You're welcome. Thank you for saying thank you at the end of your question. So this is actually a question I was hoping to ask you because I'm not sure what the status is on. I know Mark has kind of been working through some of the background party offline progress remaining issues in the V2 of that system, and as far as I know, the base system is generally working a lot better, with the exception of a couple of these kind of issues, like the one that Loopy was mentioning. Um, so yeah, I mean, is our plan to try and get those speed champions working? Is that still the plan, or what's going on there?
That was my understanding. I'm not sure at this point which ones work and which ones don't, or what sort of the overall status of that is. So I'll check in with Mark on that one as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get an update for folks on that one, because I know it's something that is on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
And we do want to, like, if they work in the background party, they will just by default start to work in offline. Those are both background and offline, I believe, just run with the same code. So once they start to work in one, they'll start to work in the other. So
Yep,
hopefully we'll be
that's
able to
right.
get there soon.
Interesting. Okay, so I was saying the random is saying the follow-up / answer to has stopped. The message pops up when a background party resets. It's not an issue. It just needs different wording. It's a good question. If that's if there's that, if it's happening, then as long as it's not happening when it is actually just sort of in the middle and not paused progress as well. But I'll get that one looked at. I'll pass that along when I ask about the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. This one is from the Frapster. I just started playing because I saw a friend playing on Discord AFK message, and I wanted to know if there's a way to filter characters so that when you are looking for a character with some wisdom stat, like Black Champion or whatever, for someone like me who doesn't know the character. Sorry, I'm reading mix halfway through the question. For someone like me who doesn't know the characters that well, can find them easily and quickly to build the formation based off of it.
Yeah, so basically a way to try and filter champions a little bit better, or at all, really. And yeah, this is a good opportunity. I think we mentioned this every episode or two of an idea that we have to do some major updates to the collections dialogue, basically collections 2.0. Right now, the collection dialogue just shows your equipment for all the champions that you have unlocked. We'd really like to get that collections dialogue to basically show all of your collections, everything you can collect in the game, all of your progress, all of and be really searchable. So be able to search by wisdom, be able to search by tag, by role, by race, etc. And get that in game at some point. I think we talked about it also in the idea of having a dialogue that pops up that kind of points you in the direction of systems you might want to explore. We've been talking about that internally a little bit lately, of basically a thing that's like, a good example is the Trials of Mount Tiamat system is kind of locked behind completing a certain variant or a certain adventure in a certain campaign, but there's nothing really in the game that points you in that direction. So if you're like, oh, I want to do trials, but I literally have no idea how to get there, so you have to go to Discord or Reddit or a guide online to try and figure out how to do that. So I think some sort of overarching dialogue, overarching sort of system in the game to point you in the direction of systems, point you in the direction of help, like finding certain characters or finding certain monsters or certain equipment or whatnot, I think would be really good. It's unfortunately, it's not something that is at the top of the priority list right now, but it is something that we'd like to do somewhere down the road.
Okay. The next question is from Fewer Pills. The question is, will the timer for reforging get removed or changed, or will reforging not change at all? Keeping the cost like before makes sense, but keeping the timer will not change that one champ will need several months of work.
Yeah, so this is something that in this pass of legendary crafting changes we're not going to be changing, but it is something that we can take a look at in the future. The basic idea being that we want to make it so that getting all your legendaries and leveling them up on a champion is relatively cheap, but getting all of the best legendary effects on a champion is still a big investment. So that's kind of our thought process on that. I wouldn't discount the possibility of maybe changing the timer and how much it reduces the cost, or how much the cost goes up each time you use it, or something like that, to make it a little bit better. But yeah, that's something that we can look at in the future.
Okay. Before I go on to the next question, I did see a question that listed as question, not a question, in the chat, but I didn't see it make it into the doc, but I thought I'd read it out because I thought it was nice. And that was from Lightning Hawk, and it says, not a question. I just wanted to say thank you, David and Justin, for being awesome devs that take such a high interest in your gaming community and actually caring about what your players think and desire.
Oh,
I thought it was a nice sentiment. Yeah. All right. Next one here is a question from Possible Cabbage. We're still not sure. Nevertheless, the question is, any plans to roll out more feats now? Some older champions are pretty feat poor. Artemis doesn't need help, but he only has 6 feats total, and Azaka only has 5.
Yeah, so yes, we will be rolling out more feats for champions. Kind of the main way that we'll be doing that is as champions show up in seasons. Whenever we do a champion redesign for a season, we go and take a very critical look at their feats and look for opportunities to add more. So that is one way in which we add feats. I know there's some of the season 3 champions when we went through design where we actually added quite a few feats to them, even some uncommon sort of free feats, because they were just lacking them for some reason. So it's generally not a thing that we'll do for other champions, unless we're looking for sort of DLC or celebration or some other way that you get feats. But definitely the ones that we put in the season, we go look for ways to maximize the number of feats they have.
Okay.
Next question here is from Garwar.
Wait.
Garwar.
He who should not be named. I think you said you were not going to read any more Garwar questions.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought this was okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, Garwar asks, Dave, David, he says, would you like a list of the dialogue boxes that don't close with escape submitted as a ticket with your name on it?
Would I like one? Yeah, certainly go ahead and send that in. I did do a pass at the beginning of the year for that, and one of the things that I did find, and I thought I got most of the ones that were dialogues and that were expected to be closed. There was an edge case, and that was some of the dialogues that are like the boxes that you can break free and move around, and there's no concept on them of sort of focus, I guess, and so. Those dialogues don't close when you hit escape, and I guess it could be those are the ones that are still on the list that you might be thinking of submitting. I'm kind of thinking about it now. It's probably something that we could do. We could make those ones close. They worked sort of in an independent way from the other dialogues, and I wasn't sure what made the most sense for those when I was looking at it. I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that, Justin?
I generally like it when dialogues close with escape. There's another idle game I play where dialogues also close when you click outside them that I find to be really nice. But
I mean, I think specifically, I'm talking about some of the dialogues, like the ones that you can drag around that you may or may not be in focus on anymore, like the jukebox, or the quest, like the current quest tracker.
Yeah, for those one, I don't think I would have escape. I was thinking just ones that kind of pop up and block your interaction with.
I think when it's obvious they're the focus, like they're in focus and they're blocking actions, then I set those to close with escape. But the ones that you could move around, I kind of sort of hedged on them and said, I'll probably leave those without. But I don't see any reason why we couldn't put escape on those. But you're sort of on the fence as well. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very on the fence about that.
But it's entirely possible I'm missing ones that were actual dialogues, but I thought I got a clear pass. But anyway. Okay, next question. This one is from Topher the Returned. Is the 1,000 season currency gold chest in tier 11 a placeholder that never got removed? The gold chest is extremely expensive compared to the contract pack and implies infinitely farmable gems are more valuable than the exclusive, temporary, and extremely limited season currency.
Yeah, so the reason there's a 1,000 season currency gold gem in tier 11 is because the point at which I was redoing the tier 11 rewards, we had already build locked, and so we couldn't put the thing I wanted in there, which was I believe it was going to be some gems for a small amount of season currency, so people could basically buy a bunch of gems if they want them for a familiar or a Modron core or something, or a skin, I guess. And the reason it's kind of the way it is because one of the requests we saw out of the season 1 currency was that there be a way to deal with breakage at the end of the season. So breakage being sort of extra season currency that you had left over at the end of the season and didn't have anything to spend it on, because all of the items there were 5,000 currency. So we wanted to add something that was cheaper, so that you would at the very most have 999 season currency left over at the end of a season, and be able to have something to spend that kind of extra on. So the gold chest is what made it for season 2. In season 3, that'll probably be some gems instead of gold chests. I think 1,000 gems for 1,000 season currency or something like that. So it'll be the equivalent, or maybe it's 500 gems. It's basically the equivalent amount of gems, but as gems instead of as a gold chest.
Okay. I do have an update here on the question earlier that I pinged Peter about. And this was asking about the silver chests won't open or give me items, bug ID 3981 on the bug tracker. Peter says that he thought, he says, last time I thought about this was ages ago. I thought we had resolved it. So if that issue is still a problem for you, if you are still experiencing that bug, Kinkolano, if you want to open up a ticket and forward that on, I'll give that information to Peter. Okay, next question. This one is from Wefon. Can you make a way to convert lower contracts, both blacksmith and bounty, to higher level ones? Redeeming so many low contracts 50 at a time is very time consuming.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing something like this for potions, and I don't see any reason we couldn't do something similar for bounty contracts or even blacksmithing contracts. Basically, the idea of being able to trade up at some ratio to higher level ones, or even trade between. Probably wouldn't let you trade between blacksmith and bounty contracts, but being able to trade between potions at some sort of ratio as well. So we've been talking about this internally. No promises on when we might get around to it. If somebody gets super excited about it, it could end up being something like the Potion Manager, where it just kind of appears in 3 days. But more likely than not, it will be a little bit longer than that. But yeah, it's something we are considering, and we would like to do at some point.
Okay.
And this question here is for you, apparently, from Idle and Chill. The question is, David, why are your titles developer first, then designer, while Justin is designer, then developer?
Yeah, I guess it's just directly to me. So sort of as we cover in our intro, Justin and I are the leads of development and design here at Codename. But more specifically, I lead development and Justin leads design. But we also both do the other job because we've been doing it for so long that it's one of those things
years?
where, we always wore both hats. And a big portion of the back end was Justin's doing, even though he likes to pretend that he doesn't have to do any coding. And I have my hands in many of the designs, especially the game system and UI design, but it's certainly not my primary role. So it's sort of first one, then the other for me, and then the other, then first for Justin. Oh, I said that right. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
we are yin and yang, essentially.
Cool. We're almost out of time here. I think we can probably get these last two questions
two more
in.
The second one is really easy.
Okay. Next question here is from Data Beaver. Can a champion get more than one copy of the same legendary affix, either from initial rolls or reforging?
So the answer is yes, but only from the second one. So the way the system works for legendaries is you'll get each of the effects. Each champion has 6 possible effects. Your first 6 crafts will get the first 6 effects. And then reforges can potentially get duplicates of the effects, effects. So in theory, you could get all of the same effect on 6 pieces of legendary items, or 6 pieces of legendary loot on the same champion. But it would be it would take a little while, because you'd have to do probably quite a bit of reforging. Because after you've seen all 6 possible effects, you've got a 1 in 6 chance to roll each effect on each subsequent reforge. So it would take a little while, but you could do it.
Okay.
Yes, you can actually get duplicates from crafting as well. If you craft a piece and then reforge it 6 times so that you've seen all 6 effects, then you would be able to, then the crafted ones would start to just pull randomly from the list. And yeah, let's say the last question here is from TS Forest, and they say, question, red question mark, white question mark, red question mark. Would it be possible to add a little icon or some indicator on a champion's portrait when they are excluded from an adventure, variant, trial, etc., and the player has a feat that would allow the champion to qualify for that adventure?
I don't think that sounds possible at all, Justin.
Just a sec. Let me scroll up to the top of the thing
top.
here. Yes, here we go. The very first thing that's in progress. Add an icon to the portrait of champions that are blocked due to variant rules that have a feat available that can make them unblocked.
Yeah, I feel like we must have been repeating that to the point where that one is, we need to get some of those taken care of. The answer is absolutely yes. We'd love to get that in there. It's been on the list for some time, and I will bump that up again with one of the other ones that we were going to see if we could get prioritized, like saving feats with formations. Yeah.
Perfect.
So yeah, I think that is all we really have time for today.
Yes, thank you for your questions today. If we didn't get to your question, as I said at the top of the show, you'll have another opportunity. We'll be back again live this same time in this same place with hopefully slightly more energy next week. Before we sign off, though, we'd like to thank our tireless mods. This week it was actually a new set of tireless mods. I believe it was Sean and Lauren this week.
Sounds correct.
So they're the two who are copying your questions into our questions doc and helping to make chat awesome. So thanks to both of you.
And of course, thanks to all of you for hanging out, watching the stream, asking such great questions, and for enjoying the game. Without you, no one here would get to do what we do.
Yeah, we like what we do, so don't make us do something else.
Yep. All right, that's that. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. All right, Justin, which days are the strongest?
I don't know which.
Saturday and Sunday. The rest are weekdays.
Boo.